Hey yo, what is up guys? I'm coming in with a banger of a video today. This video is about the time I crashed my car with no insurance on Xanax. So without further ado, let's get right into it. Now I want to say that this story takes place about 2 years after high school. So I want to say that'd be like 2020, 2021. But during this time, I just recently broken up with my girlfriend and moved in with some friends of mine. Um, Specifically, one of the friends in this video, his name, we're gonna call him Ozzy. Now, me and Ozzy, we had a weird friendship. He was more of a friend of a friend, so by like virtue, he was my friend. If like you get what I mean, like if you've ever been in that position. But nonetheless, I wake up this day, and during this time, I was selling to like support my habits. So I wake up and I have a sale, like a $70 sale. I ask my friend Ozzy if he wants to go on this sale with me, just come with me, get out of the house, like whatever. Like I just, was bored. Nonetheless, I get back to the guy. I say, yes, I can do the quarter for you. I'm pretty sure it was a quarter I sold him. I can't remember. Because right before this, for whatever reason, I know the reason, I'm just a fiend. I woke up and popped a Xan. Now I popped this Xan and obviously I'm gonna go make this sale, but out of nowhere I have this like grand idea. I'm gonna go make this sale, and then with that money that I just made off the sale, I'm gonna go buy some milkshakes because there was this little ice cream shop right down the street, literally like a minute away, probably a 5 minute walk, where you could get like really good ice cream and milkshakes. So I say to Ozzy, like, hey, you come with me on this sale, I'll get you a milkshake. It's a win-win because I don't want to go alone. Even though, like, thinking back on it, like, if he'd have not gone, he probably wouldn't have had back problems for like a week. And it would have been better overall if he just not came. But nonetheless, he wants the milkshake. I want the milkshake. He decides to come along. Now at this point, the bars kicked in because all I can remember from like leaving the house is pulling up at the dude's house, giving him the little bit of weed he ordered and leaving. Now as we're leaving, we drive by this, like I remember it so clearly. We drive by this muffler shop, and this muffler shop has a red light like right in front of it. So we drive by this muffler shop and we have to stop. Now in front of me is a FedEx truck. Now, during the time, my first car was like a Pontiac G5. If you know anything about cars, it's basically a Cobalt, just like reskinned with a Pontiac badge. So literally a Cobalt. And this FedEx truck is like double the size. I can't see over it. I can't see the light. Of course, I'm dumb. I pulled right up on it, like right up on it. So if there was a chance of me being able to see the light, it was gone the second I got right up on it. Nonetheless, I pull up on this FedEx truck. Now, this light, I remember specifically, it felt like it took forever. Like it felt like it just didn't want us to leave. Like the goal of getting milkshakes was never gonna happen. We were gonna die at this light. So we pull up at this light, and I look down at my phone. I'm trying to change the song, right? Very like stupidly and slowly. And out of the corner of my eye, while trying to change the song, I see this FedEx truck inch up, not move, not start driving, just roll up a little bit, as most people would do at a red light, impatient, like they're just impatient. They want something to do, they roll up. For whatever reason, I took this as, oh, it's a green light, let's go. And this was my first car. I was high. So I just floored it, right? Absolutely took off gunning. You would have thought I was drag racing, right? Except I smacked right into this FedEx truck. He never really moved. He only went up an inch. All I ended up doing was shoving the whole front of my car under his I don't know if you've ever seen the FedEx like vans or whatever, but they have like steps in the back. I just rammed my car completely under this guy's steps. Like his like the car his like the van looked fine, right? The steps, however, like the steps that like get in the back of the van, completely destroyed, right? Completely wrapped around the front of like my car, right? So I smack my head on the steering wheel, right? Ozzy, I don't know, goes flying, right? Definitely smacked his head on something. And I just start freaking out because at this point, it was genuinely like, am I going to pay bills or am I going to get drugs? And I would always choose drugs. So I had no insurance, right? And another kicker, I was late on payments for the car and I never got the car's like title in my name. So when you leave like a car dealership, there's like a little white slip that they give you. It's like a temporary license plate, right? I had that. They're only good for like a month. I drove around with mine for like 6 months and then got to the point where I was getting pulled over because this was during COVID, right? And the restrictions were very different. Like even I kind of have trouble remembering, but there was like two times where I got pulled over and because it was COVID and like everything was shut down and like hard to access, they let me go with it like an expired temporary plate, right? So I went months without this plate, right? Eventually COVID ends, like everything's back to normal, right? And so I just realized I'm gonna get in trouble if they see this plate. So what do I do? What what big brain play do I make? Right? Clearly, rip off the temporary license plate and just drive around without a license plate. Cause that's better than any cops. I'm like immediately seeing your license plate and knowing that it's expired, rather than seeing no license plate. Like you can see how like the thought process was just completely wrong here. But nonetheless, I start freaking out because I have all of these problems wrong with the car, right? I just hit somebody. I don't even own the car. I got it from buy here, pay here that I haven't paid in like 6 months. Never got the title in my name. Don't have insurance, right? Like four just no nos, just complete no nos, right? This FedEx guy, like immediately before I can even get out of the car, pulls his car like I said, there's a red light. It's pretty much a four-way. He takes a right and pulls on the right side of the muffler shop, right? I pulled like into the muffler shop because I was like, it's like hard to explain, but like I was like barely at the point where I could still get in. So I like turned my wheel all the way to the right, pulled in there, turned off the car, got out, immediately started looking for this phony plate, right? Just like anything to help me out, right? I find this phony plate all like scrunched up on the floor of the car. The tape's got hair on it, right? I shove it back on the back real quick, right? Before the FedEx guy can even get out of his car. After doing that, I just kind of got out and assessed the damage. Like, I didn't really know what else to do. And keep in mind, I'm high this whole time. Like, I'm just kind of like nonchalantly like freaking out because, like, if you've ever done Xanax, you just kind of don't have any worry. And that's kind of like where I was at. Like I had no worry, but at the same time I was like, damn, dude, I just crashed my car and I knew all of these things were going to be an issue. So I'm just kind of like nonchalantly panicking. And the dude comes up to me and he's like, "Hey man, like are you okay?" Like asking that in more than one way, if you know what I mean, like not just like, "Hey, are you okay? Did you smack your head?" But like, "Hey, like are you okay? Like are you on something?" And I'm like, "No, no, no. Like I'm fine, blah blah blah." And he's like, "Can I see your insurance card?" And I'm like, "Okay, fuck. Like what am I going to do here?" And at the time, I had Progressive, and I don't know if you guys like have the Progressive app or if like this is going to make sense, but you could like have a virtual card in your Apple Wallet. You know what I mean? And it would just be the insurance card. Like obviously you can buy anything with it, but you could have it like in your Apple Wallet to show. And I did have one, right? So, I do the double click, pull up my like Apple Pay, and it like, I swipe through the cards, like the little virtual cards, and I see it, right? And at the top of it, right, it's fine and dandy, right? At the top of it, it says like good through blank blank, right? I was like 4 months past the date that it was good for. So, like, keep in mind, I like don't really know what an insurance card says or like, but like thinking on it, it has like numbers, right, or whatever. And then at the top on this card, on the online card specifically, it had that little number. So I flip him around the number. Practically the whole time he's looking at it, I'm like freaking out, right? Fucking tweaking because this number says it like expired like in April, right? And it's like January, right? Just as an example. So I'm like freaking out, thinking at like any second he's gonna be like, "Hey, do you have a new insurance card?" Blah blah blah, and the jig is up, right? And he had already informed me that he called the police. So like I'm expecting the police to come. I'm just expecting this to all go downhill, right? Amazingly, he just writes down the info and goes on about his day. He got back in the car and waited for police to show up. I think I walked back up to Ozzy, like complete Jack Doherty moment, you know what I mean? Just walked up, no care in the world, like look at the damage, like no care in the world, like complete just caveman, no thoughts. Anyways, this police officer ends up showing up, right? And my town is small. I think I mentioned that it only takes like 2 to 3 minutes to get across it, like very small, like rural. Um, so this cop pulls up, and in my town, like everybody knows the cops, and obviously, if you've been in trouble, every cop knows you, right? I've been in trouble before. I did not know this cop when he pulled up, like a younger guy, probably in his 20s, and I immediately was like, yes, right? Yes. No better outcome, right? So I immediately start to get like a little bit more hyped, knowing that it's not a cop that knows me and just knowing that he's like newer in general. So he goes over and talks to the guy that was hit, right? Blah blah blah. Couldn't hear him. They were kind of far away from me. He ends up coming up to me. He asks if he can see the insurance card. Now at this point, I'm shivering me timbers, right? I am praying. Keep in mind, I've never hit anybody before, so in general, I don't know how this whole thing works. Like, I don't know how it's gonna go. Like, even if I had insurance, blah blah blah. But I am praying that he does not notice that my insurance is expired, right? Nonetheless, do the double click, swipe through the little like cards on the app, pull it up, and show it to him, right? He gives it a good stare. He also writes some info down on his little, pen and paper and says, "Well, do you need an ambulance?" Starts like just asking me like a bunch of questions, like why it happened, blah blah blah. Could not tell you how I answered these besides no, I don't need an ambulance and no, I don't need a tow truck. So that's just a whole blank. But nonetheless, he ends up letting us go. Now, give mine, I said no to a tow truck. I got to get this car home on my own. I got to handle it, right? I start to actually like assess the damages because up until this point, I've just walked around it and kind of been like, oh, that's fucked up. Or, that's broken. Like, obviously, so far, the only damage was my hood was lifted up, and the front like bar when you open the car that your like radiator fan or yeah, your radiator fan would sit on, completely bent in. Like my radiator was definitely like done for. I end up trying to close the hood because it had bent inwards and kind of popped out and up, right? So the hood, like I could just lift it open, like it was like I popped it myself. I end up trying to close it and I can't. I can't close it. I jumped on the hood. I tried to flatten it out. It's never gonna close because the literal part, the latch, like at the bottom, was bent. Like as I said, the whole front frame bar of the car was bent in. Like the whole car was mangled. So I get the great idea. I'm gonna grab a zip tie, not zip ties, a zip tie, and try and zip tie my hood down, right? And so I find a zip tie in my car. I guess I just had zip ties, like really lucky play on my part. Don't remember why I had them or the reasoning. Oh, Actually, I do. It's because I threw my car off the road like a week earlier and I needed a zip tie to put my front bumper back on. Nonetheless, a lot of fuck ups in like a month. I, I don't know. If you guys want a story on that, drop a like and a comment. But back to the story. I put one zip tie on like the latch and the hood, or the latch would be on the hood. I'm not really sure, but and I tie it down, right? Car still runs. It really, oh, really wasn't leaking no, fluids or anything. So I'm thinking I'm good, right? I start to pull this car down the road. I kid you not. This is probably to be expected. The zip tie, wonderful zip ties never let anybody down, they say. The hood flew open and cracked my windshield, right? The windshield's now completely fucked. Something that was not fucked. Didn't even have a crack in it. Now it is like cracked in all across. Like you can't really see out of it. It's done for. It is done for. So I get out of the car again. And I reach in the back trunk and I had a bunch of like clothes bags sitting in my trunk because I just recently moved out of my girlfriend's, and by just recently I mean probably like 3 months prior, and just never took them out of my car because I was a lazy just crackhead. Like anything other than do work, I was on that. I grab a shirt and I use that to tie it down. Now that worked, thankfully, or probably would have glass in my face or something, because I can tell you that car was not going to survive having that hood fly open again. But I end up making it home, and that's it. That's the end. I To this day I don't know how I got away with that. I don't know. I don't know. I will tell you this though. Probably about 2 weeks later, I got pulled over, and it was with a actual knowledgeable cop and one that knew me, and he hit me with the book. The car got towed. I never saw it again. I got charged. Even to this day, I'd have to drive with an SR22. So, I appreciate you guys for listening. Drop a like, leave a comment, subscribe. I'm out.